Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Kelvin Wallace's deck that they took to win the North American Eternal Weekend, which is the biggest Eternal tournament of the year. It's huge, and taking this down is quite the feat. It's about 1,200 players legacy tournament, so absolutely enormous, and a big congratulations to Kelvin on the win. That is no mean feat. The deck they used was Karn Forge. This deck is pretty darn strong. We've played it before on the channel, but we'll quickly go over it for you again today. So essentially we are using a lot of artifact synergies to create a lot of mana. So things like Grim Monolith and Basalt Monolith alongside Manifold Key and Voltaic Key, just to keep untapping these. And then we funnel that mana into things like the One Ring, Mystic Forge or Karn. The One Ring has the added benefit of being able to be untapped with Voltaic Key and draw us loads of cards. We can obviously untap Mystic Forge as well, but exiling the top card is not as good as drawing increasing amounts of cards every time we untap. And somewhere along the lines, we get a Glaring Fleshraker in play, and this just domes our opponent for enough when we're pinging a bunch here. We can get multiple Fleshrakers out, we can cast a giant Kozilek command to put lots and lots of little creatures in play, which will trigger our Fleshraker. This can also stack the top of our deck for Mystic Forge. So our deck is basically mana plus payoffs, pretty much. And we have 4 Vexing Bauble to handle counter magic, and some of the combat decks can go underneath us. This particular build has a one of Candelabra of Tawnos, so where we have things like Ancient Tomb and Urza's Tower, which goes with the Planar Nexus, and the Urza's Workshop, we can then untap a bunch of lands, so this acts a bit like another key that can sometimes generate more mana, which is pretty tasty. And we do have a few Urza Sagas in here, so we can do an Urza Saga beatdown plan and make our constructs unblockable with Manifold Key, which sometimes gets us there. But generally, we're just trying to make a lot of mana and just pay it off into these spells and win the game. We are a Karn sideboard deck, so a lot of our sideboard is dedicated to Karn. So we have Portable Hole, which we can fetch, and then we can use the Planar Nexus or a Lotus Petal to funnel that mana into the right colour to cast a Portable Hole. We've got the Lattice to just lock people out, the Paradox Engine, which we can get, so every time we play a spell, we untap all of our keys and our monoliths. Our One Ring, just go to town. Liquimetal Coating to blow up some permanents or shut off our opponent's permanents. Ensnaring Bridge to hide behind. Silent Gravestone is a nice bit of graveyard hate here. We got Pithing Needle as well, we can bring in and get with the Saga. Same with the Silent Gravestone, we can put one in for the Saga and one in the sideboard for the Karn. Another Mystic Forge in case we need action off the Karn. And that's it for the Karn board. We have 3 Boseijus we can board in against some of these decks that are trying to mess with our artifacts, bringing in null rods and that sort of jazz. A couple of Dismembers for creature removal for things like Collector Roof, and we've also got a Fairy Macabre as a bit more graveyard hate that we can board in. And that's pretty much it. So like I said, we've played this before. The deck is pretty darn strong. I think 3 of them ended up in the top 8, so it's quite a powerful one indeed. So let's see if we can do Kelvin proud and smash some people up in a league today. Alright, remember to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to see my content early, remember that you can become a YouTube member for just £1 a month and see all my content early. Let's do some Karn Forging. We are on the play. What does our hand do? It allows us to play an Urza Saga game, which we can then pivot into something else. I think that's reasonable. It's not necessarily what we want to be doing, but we have some pretty strong pivots with these Karns. I think I will keep this. We start spewing constructs out on turn 2. So we can deploy our Lotus Petal and our Pithing Needle. We probably put the Pithing Needle on Wasteland here, just so that we can protect our Urza Saga plan. Sure, that becomes annoying if our opponent has something else, but we are using the rest of our mana for the Urza Saga for the foreseeable couple of turns. So getting this down on turn 1 to make sure our constructs hit the deck as 3/3s that then grow is where I want to be. There's not a lot of lightning bolts in Legacy right now, so things like Orcish Bowmasters are more common than lightning bolt, so having a Saga that's going to live through that is handy. Our deck is pretty susceptible to Wastelands anyway, so I think it makes sense to play this out this way. Put on Wasteland, play out our Lotus Petal. Our opponent probably has an idea what we're doing. We don't necessarily have to play out the Lotus Petal then. We are potentially exposing ourselves to a prismatic ending, but we're already exposed to that via having the Pithing Needle out anyway. Our opponent is also an Urza Saga Lotus Petal deck. Interesting. They have 2 Lotus Petals though. So we could be looking at a mirror match, quite likely since this deck just won Eternal Weekend. A Vexing Bauble. Yep. It does feel like we're in a mirror match. We might be seeing a few of these today. Karn is the big thing that goes over the top of mirror matches though. Knowing that, I think I'm going to just deploy the Karn here. I think that's better than a Urza Saga token in this particular situation. Alright, yep, so our opponent just scoops straight up to the Karn, because that's how this mirror match goes. Alright, so we're playing a ridiculous game that might end up being a non-game. Fun times. So what do we want to do here? It's probably like Boseijus. They're probably relatively useful in the mirror. We need to be able to shut down our opponent's Karn. Pithing Needle isn't good enough to do that. We need to actually remove the Karn because it's just the static ability of the Karn that's the real problem. So if we want to board in these Boseijus, we probably have to board out. Are we boarding in the Boseijus? Are we just trying to go faster than our opponent? Right, the Vexing Baubles aren't good here, so we can take those out. They stop a handful of cards, like our opponent's Petals or whatever. I don't think that's worth it. So you can smash in these 3 Boseijus, and then what? Maybe a Dismember for one of their Fleshrakers? Seems fine. We can probably take out a key for another Dismember. I think on the play, we probably just keep in stuff that lets us go faster. So this is turn 1, Tower, Candelabra, Mox Opal, turn 2, nothing. We have to mulligan. Oh. Alright. I had a little lag spike and clicked keep on this hand. If we draw another land in the first 2 turns, it is okay-ish. But that was not what I wanted to do. I did want to mulligan this one. Mystic Forge. Okay, so we might be dead on turn 2 anyway. Let's see what we can accomplish. We did draw another land, so it's not the worst. We obviously want to get our Mox Opal out just in case our opponent's got their Vexing Baubles out. So if we can find another artifact, we can. If we can find a Planar Nexus, we can end up with a decent chunk of mana here. And double Fleshraker does pop off pretty hard, but I did not want to keep this hand. I did misclick. Opponent is exiling cards with the Mystic Forge. It was a land. That's pretty much expected. The One Ring. Yep. So the advantage is certainly snowballing here. A Grim Monolith. Okay. So now we can play a Karn. And maybe this is good enough. Do I want to just go and get something from my sideboard straight away? What do we want in a situation like this? We can just go get Liquimetal Coating and start shutting down their lands. I don't hate that one. We could get a Pithing Needle so we can shut down the One Ring, but I think we want to have our own One Ring running. I think we just go get this Voltaic Key, actually. That seems like the best thing. I think I boarded one of those out now. So next turn we can play that and use it to untap our Grim Monolith. And we can just start playing Fleshrakers and going to town. We got the One Ring and 2 Ancient Tombs doing some work for us. So we have 4 mana next turn after we've played the key. Alright, and there's a tower. They have a Karn of their very own. Alright. So finding a land here would be pretty important. Let's see if our opponent's got any interesting tech. Or are they just going to go for like a Lattice line? Sky Sovereign. Okay. Interesting. Manifold Key. So we can't get that going the way we want it to. We only have a 1 mana artifact that can attack the Karn. We'd have a way of untapping this because it's 4 to untap. I don't think there's any point playing out the key. We can use the keys after we have a Fleshraker in play. If we minus the Karn, what does it get us? Nothing particularly useful right now. You shut down their Karn. Don't really want to do that though. If we... So they're going to Sky Sovereign, which will shoot this for 3. So if we +1 now onto Candelabra, we can crash for 1, or we can reduce the Karn to being a 2 loyalty. So if they minus the Karn, they lose the Karn. So they'll almost certainly be plus in the Karn next turn, unless they have a follow-up Karn. Like I said, we're going to hold back these keys so that we can get a little bit of pinging with Fleshraker. If we can draw an Ancient Tomb or an Urza's Workshop would be pretty tasty here. That would tap for 3 mana here. That would probably win us the game because we'd be able to play the Fleshraker and then the keys are free. Alright, so they're animating their One Ring here. Yeah. So they're just basically copying the line that we did. And this is going to turn their One Ring back on, but their One Ring is going to be tapped. This is not bad for a hand I didn't want to keep in the first place. Karn is pretty good in the male matchup for sure. Right, 2, 4, 6. So they can Lattice lock us next turn. So we really need to draw some big manas here. Basalt Monolith, sure. So our opponent's taking 1 damage next turn, so they're going to be on 6. I think we're best served by trying to get our Fleshraker to kill our opponent. But obviously, it all depends on what the top card of our deck is. A Pithing Needle. This is an awkward one. So I don't really want their Karn activating. That's probably scarier for us than the One Ring in a lot of ways. It's all scary at this point. And then we just have to name the Karn. There's a lot of chance that our opponent gets to play another One Ring and just cancel out. They can draw extra cards so they're not going to die to their One Ring, is what I'm thinking here. They might just be able to play through their whole deck. We'll just allow them to do their thing. We can put away our sideboard for now. Feels like we're not going to have the Manatech Karn. We draw Planar Nexus. That gets us 7 mana total and we can just kill our opponent. if we had the Urzas, that would have 3, 4, 5. So this is 3, and this is 3. That's 3. It's a little bit short of. Yeah, so Planar Nexus is definitely the best draw we can have. That just automatically wins us the game. You just go Fleshraker, Fleshraker, Key, Key. Alright, they're Kozilek's commanding, probably looking for a Fleshraker. I suspect we might be seeing something from this Mystic Forge deck get banned in the December bannings on the 16th. But you never know. I've seen people suggesting anything from no bans, which I think is a bit weird, to 8 bans for the 16th of December. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what they actually tackle. Alright, so drawing some cards with the One Ring. They're playing some more cards. They've got the Mystic Forge, just let them rip off the top. Haven't found a key just yet. Interesting. They're choosing not to use their life total here with these Ancient Tombs. Fleshraker, so they're playing some keys. They're going to be pinging us a bunch here. They should be able to string it together here with this key plus this One Ring. That should be enough. But maybe they don't, so we have to keep playing. Another Fleshraker. Alright, this is what we wanted to do to our opponent last turn. The One Ring. So they've got protection now, so we can't even hit them with a Fleshraker. I think we can safely pack this one up at this point. Our opponent's just going to rip through the whole deck. We are seeing that they kept the Vexing Bauble in, which is interesting. Alright, so on the play, do we want to just be the deck that goes first and goes faster? I think that might be the case here. So maybe we don't want these dismembers. Having the key in the board was not the worst thing, but I think having it in the main does make more sense. So if we have that in the main, and then what else do we want? Like, it probably is just bringing in one of these dismembers. Alright. Also, we boarded in 3 lands in that matchup as well, so we were more odds on to have the extra mana. Just didn't come to fruition. Also, we kept a hand that we meant to shuffle away. What are we doing with this hand? Workshop. Okay, this is a turn 2 One Ring. So we could go Workshop, Petal, Monolith. That's 3 mana. Play the key. Untap the key. Yeah, we can do turn 1 One Ring. That seems fine. I think it's better to play a tower here. Easier route to more mana. Our opponent's mulligan to 5. Have they got some sort of super spicy mirror tech that I don't know about? Or are they just having a bad time? Alright, Grim Monolith. Tap this, play the key. Key untaps the Monolith. Monolith taps. One Ring. And we are cooking with gas now. Alright, another Manifold Key. So that's a Cabal Ritual the first time we play it and a Dark Ritual every turn after. Our opponent mulligan to 5, so they can certainly end up with a very similar start to what we've done, and the One Ring kind of undoes a lot of problems. There's a tower and a Voltaic Key. Right, our start was certainly better than theirs. Not surprised given we have more cards to do it with. Let's draw some more cards. Another Grim Monolith and the Planar Nexus. Excellent. So we can play out this Grim Monolith. We can untap this One Ring. And we should be cruising from this point onwards. Kozilek's command, that's A-OK as well. Let's get some more mana down. There's Manifold Key. Let's untap this One Ring, I think. Hard to go wrong with this many cards. We didn't actually hit anything else that really matters right now. We could do a Kozilek's command for 1. Is that worth it? I don't think it is. Right, we will go to our end step and we'll discard an Ancient Tomb here. And we'll get rid of a tower of these workshops. I guess the workshops are going to be better once we have more of them in play. Okay, we'll get rid of the workshop. Now, we're going to win this game most likely before we deploy all these lands from our hand. I suspect next turn is our turn where we win. Our opponent can pop off a little bit this turn. We might have to respect something like a Karn. A Grim Monolith, sure. They've got the key, so they can do some pretty big mana shenanigans this turn. Right, a Mystic Forge. Much happier to see this as opposed to a Karn. But if they rip a key off the top and produce a bunch more mana, then we could end up in a sticky situation where they end up with a Karn as well. But I think if we get to untap here without anything too bad happening on the other side, we should be golden. Kozilek's command X equals 1. Alright, that is not ideal for our opponent. And they put it to the bottom as well. Pretty sure we can string together a win with what we have in front of us at this point. Step 1, tap the One Ring. Okay, so the Urza Tower gives us the most mana this turn, right? Or the Workshop. If we play the Workshop, this is an Urza land as well. So we play the Workshop, this taps for 3. We play the Tower at West. Yeah, so our opponent knows we're just going to play some stuff. So we can just go untap some stuff, play Fleshraker, big Kozilek's command, big Kozilek's command, big Kozilek's command, and that's the end of the game. Alright, 1 round and done. Let's go to round 2. This hand demonstrates how Basalt Monolith is not the same as Grim Monolith. I don't like this hand very much. We are just one mana source away from popping off, and we have 2 draws to really find that. So I guess we can probably keep this one. We do have the Bauble, which can protect us from a bunch of things. Obviously, we want to play our Petal before the Bauble. A Verdant Catacomb, so we're not playing against the Mirror. We could be playing against a deck that has access to Collector Roof, though. Almost certainly. I think in this current format, you definitely want to have Collector Roof as a main deck target. So the Bauble looks less good against what our opponent's doing. Okay, we just get to do some fun stuff here. Let's get this out as well. And get the Grim Monolith. We've seen this one before. Play Voltaic Key. Starting to think this One Ring card might be a little bit pushed. Alright. Let's play the One Ring. Obviously Grim Monolith and the Key are doing a lot of the heavy lifting here too. Draw some more cards. A Mystic Forge. So our opponent might be able to Green Sun Zenith up a Collector Roof this turn. Which would have some pretty negative impacts on how we're trying to play this game. Silver Safekeeper though, so we are free from that. Our opponent is certainly a Nardo decklist with a Safekeeper in, I would imagine. I guess it could be a Safekeeper for like a Cradle Control, actually. That would make more sense with the Verdant Catacombs as well. Alright, so they're getting the Collector Roof right now. There it is. What is our solution to beating Collector Roof? Making big Urza Saga tokens. We need to have a land that actually works for this though. We did not find a land that works for this. So we can play out some more artifacts. That's not going to help us here. But we may as well. Our opponent should be able to win this one over the course of a couple of turns here. If we can get Karn, we can get the Portable Hole, but then we also need to get access to white mana via the Planar Nexus. So it seems like a pretty difficult task. Our opponent might just be able to create Hoofus this turn and put us squarely in the dirt. Or they can just bash us for a bunch here. Alright, they're keeping the Reclaimer around. They could go and get a Wasteland because they know that we don't play any basics. I wonder if they fetch in response to our Urza Saga. I guess we get the Pithing Needle here. Doesn't really matter, does it? I'll play out the other Bauble. But we're taking damage. We need to get this Kozilek's Command trucking, and that's going to be a very difficult ask here because we need to have 4 mana available, and we are nowhere close to that. We're currently standing at 0 mana. Once upon a time, with plenty of mana in the tank. So hit us for 6 each turn cycle. So I guess we take 1 more draw. If it's not a land, then we can probably just scoop it up. White of the Reliquary. Alright. All white indeed, I guess. We are going to get slammed pretty hard. So we need to... I don't even know if that's enough now. So we take 6 this turn. Then we take 8 next turn. Oh no, we've already taken the one from the One Ring. Yeah, I don't think we have any outs here. Ancient Tomb is certainly not the one either. Yep. Main deck Collector Roof is very good in the format right now. So, I would like some Dismembers, please. And that's pretty much all we want. I don't believe this is the Vexing Bauble matchup. It does stop Force of Vigor, but Force of Vigor isn't actually as good as you think it would be. I don't mind a Pithing Needle, but having one in the sideboard is reasonable as well. I think we'll leave in 2 Baubles, just so that we have a little bit of protection against Force of Vigor. We can always cycle them anyway. And we'll go in. This is not a deck where you do particularly large amounts of sideboarding. Okay. Well, we have a turn 1 One Ring again. What a silly deck this is. And we get to hopefully pop off in a big way before our opponent gets to do much about it. Now, we are potentially at risk of a turn 1 Force of Vigor. It's Manifold Key down. So if we untap this Grim Monolith, this is our opponent's chance to blow us out. They did not blow us out. So now we just get to One Ring. Next turn we can deploy the Fleshraker and start just generating mana with every spell we play and just having a jolly good time about it. A Wooded Foothills. We're going to see a Green Sun Zenith or a Mana Dork or an Elvish Reclaimer. They can't force use us because of the One Ring. Right, there is the Hierarch. Let's tap the One Ring. Untap this Grim Monolith. Let's play the Fleshraker. Play Lotus Petal. We will yield to these triggers because there's going to be a lot of them over the course of this game. So this is free to cast because it replaces itself with a spawn. Alright, our opponent's just scooping because they know we're just going to be popping off here. So we're going to have 3 mana here, which is actually going to be 4 mana because of this. 5 mana from the land. We can Kozilek's Command, and then it's probably just lights out. Alright, let's just go back in again. Let's do the broken things. Basalt Monolith is definitely slower. We don't actually have a good way of ramping. We do have enough lands to answer a potential Collector Roof down the stretch. I think am I going to keep this one? I like having the Kozilek's Command. I also like the Urza Saga, actually, because the Urza Saga can just give us creatures bigger than our opponents. I've not got that many games in with this Mystic Forge, Karn Forge deck, so I could be getting things wrong with this matchup and what we're supposed to keep. A Once Upon a Time from our opponent. What are they going to show us here? Cradle. It's not a bad land to have access to for them. And they just played it straight out. That is interesting. No other land and 1-drop. Right, so now we can up our speed here because we've got the Ancient Tombs. We can just go straight into this as a Saga plan. Next turn, we can do Basalt Monolith stuff if we really want to, but I think we're just going to crank out a few constructs at the moment because our opponent is a little bit behind curve because they didn't make any 1-drops. And the land they played does not make mana. Force of Vigor. Alright, so we're just resetting the game with them having a Reclaimer. We both lose 2 cards. Sorry, they have a Cradle in play. So we can just play the same turn over again. Fort C. So we're probably going to lose the K command, so we're definitely on the Urza Saga train here. But again, our opponent is not committing anything to the board. So we're having the time and space to sort of move around and get our pieces in play. I don't think I'll play out this Lotus Petal. I'm not expecting Vexing Bauble from our opponents. We can use the Petal next turn. We want to have it in play before we make our Saga, just in case our opponent has some sort of Walkish Bowmasters to ping off. I know they don't really run Walkish Bowmasters these days, but they used to, and maybe they're bringing them back because there's a lot of tempo in the format. Who knows? It's certainly a weapon that they have available in their arsenal. Bristly Bill. Play this Ancient Tomb out. We'll play out this Lotus Petal, and we just crank out a Saga. I don't think we need to dismember our opponent's Bristly Bill. I wonder if our opponent does have Nadu in their deck, or they're just running Bristly Bill. They could be running the Scythe Cat. I think the Scythe Cat is better than Bristly Bill. Does our opponent want to trade their Bristly Bill? They do not. No other play. I wonder what's going on over there. A Force of Vigor on our Construct token. I'll make another Construct token. Karn the Great Creator. That can certainly do some work down the stretch. Our opponent has spent a lot of resources. They're down to 1 card in hand. The Crate Hoof is no longer in their deck, so they don't have that gear to shift into later on. They probably have something like an Attractor they can fish out, which is still fine. But Attractor usually doesn't kill us and gives us another turn. And us having any number of extra turns is going to be useful. Does our opponent want to attack with this Bristly Bill? They might want to take us off Metalcraft. They decide against it. We're playing a Nexus. 1, 2, 3. Let's get the Basalt Monolith. Play a Manifold Key. Let's untap this Basalt Monolith. Let's deploy a Karn. Let's view our sideboard. So I would like a Mystic Forge. But is that a thing for now or is that a thing for later? Shut off their green mana. Or their green/black mana. Certainly an interesting proposition. I just don't know if we want any of these things. I think we're just going to plus the Karn, no targets. And we're just going to hold back this construct with the aim of next turn we can just lattice lock our opponent. Once Upon a Time. It'd be nice if our opponent goes down to 1 card in hand this turn. So we know we're not getting Force of Vigored. Windswept Heath. They're almost certainly going to be playing that out now. There it is. So they're pumping their Bristly Bill. I don't know if I want to kill this because I don't want to just get caught napping. Right, let's untap our Basalt Monolith. Minus Karn. Then we get the Mycosynth Lattice, if I can find it on here. Let's get this down. Alright, we got the GGs from the opponent there. Yeah, our deck's pretty gross. Let's go to round 3. So our opener here has a lot of mana, but not really anywhere to go with it outside of a Kozilek's Command. So I think we can do better. Like this would be a turn 2 Kozilek's Command for 2. Like our deck has so many more explosive starts. Let's just try and find one. Okay. This is very similar, but better. So I will take similar, but better. We'll probably keep this and put back the Basalt Monolith. This is kind of the same hand, but just faster and better. A Cloud Post. Okay, so our opponent is doing some big mana stuff. We can go Grim Monolith, and we just immediately play out the Fleshraker here. I don't expect our opponent's deck to have much in the way of removal. So next turn, we can start playing a bunch of stuff out and do a big Kozilek's Command. Maybe we can win the game next turn. And Once Upon a Time for our opponent. Sowing Mycospawn. It's unlikely to come down this turn, but not impossible, because they could have a Glimmer Post plus an Elvish Spirit Guide. Or an Eye of Ugin plus an Elvish Spirit Guide. Is our opponent going to get a Wasteland here? If they get a Wasteland, that's pretty bad for us. They did get a Wasteland. Okay. Now we still have a land in hand, but we don't get to really pop off like we wanted to. Urza's Workshop. Is that where we want to be right now? I don't believe so. I think we want the tower in first. So we play this out. This gets us the key. And we can tap this for some manas. This is effectively free to cast. We can do a little Kozilek's command for 1. Honestly, don't hate that. Keep things moving. There's a Saga. That can go on the bottom. We don't really need that one just yet. Another Vexing Bauble. We could play this one out now if we wanted to. It's effectively free to do so. Do I want to draw any additional cards here? If we draw a card, we can't play a key and deploy it, so I think we're just going to sit back with where we're at. Our workshop will tap for 2 next turn, so we'll jump in mana. We need to find a bit of action, but we can cycle these baubles to find that action next turn. A Boseiju. And a pass. I imagine we're getting attacked by the Mycosynth. No? Okay. I guess they are hoping that we don't have enough resources and we just can't chip them down, and that 3 life will be enough to buy them additional turns. That's reasonable. A crop rotation. I wonder what this is going to be. Tabernacle. Okay, okay. Sacrifice a creature to add mana. Sacrifice a creature to add mana. We will not pay for the first one. We'll not pay for the second one, because it's obviously not there. We will pay for our Fleshraker. And then we will use this key to untap this monolith. We'll draw for 10. A tower. Oh, no, we need to tap this for 2 here. Let's draw a card. Draw another card. Karn the Great Creator. Get that friend in. What do I want to do with my Karn? View sideboard. Let's have a look. We can have a Mystic Forge next turn, or a Pithing Needle, or something of that ilk. We could just plus this and make it so that we don't lose. They're not going to be able to take something out of our hand. So if we minus this, it's probably just going to be fine. So this is 1, 2, 3. So we play this. This taps for. So we're going to have loads of mana. So we can just Lattice lock our opponent next turn if we want to. I think that's reasonable, isn't it? So we probably don't get... Do we get the Lattice lock now? We just get the Mystic Forge. I think we get the Mystic Forge this time. And then next turn, we get the Lattice if that's the right position. Because then we know if it's going to actually make a difference. Our opponent has to pay to keep their Mycospawn alive. They are paying. Alright, they're very much under the gun of what we're putting at them right now. And there's a tower. They're going to attack our Karn. They are not. Sacrifice this to pay for the other one. So our opponent might have another Boseiju they're attempting to channel here. So we play this out. We end up with all the mana in the world. Oh, we've lost Metalcraft actually, haven't we? Play this. This gives us Metalcraft. A Disruptor Flute. It's kind of annoying if they name the Manifold Key. So if we use the Manifold Key to untap our Grim Monolith, we spend 1 mana to get 3 mana. If we don't, then we have 3 mana anyway, so this is probably going to name the Karn. Like, they can stop us exiling stuff with the Mystic Forge, but that doesn't really matter for what we're trying to accomplish here. A Grim Monolith. This now taps for loads of mana. We'll tap this. We'll cast this. We will cast this. And this should be enough at this stage. Okay, yeah, we got Voltaic Key as well. Yeah, so they see the writing on the wall here. We're just going to be spinning our wheels until our opponent dies. Okay, so our opponent is doing Force of Vigor stuff, I imagine, against us. And they've got some artifacts that we maybe want to blow up with these Boseijus. I'm not big into the Vexing Bauble. I understand the use for it here, but it's not really what I want to be. I don't think we're looking at Pithing Needles here. Does our opponent have Collector Roofs out of the sideboard? That's another possibility. So maybe we'll trim a workshop because we're boarding in all these lands. We'll leave 1 Vexing Bauble we can tutor for. What does our hand do here? We could do some Urza Saga beatdown. We have a Karn with a reasonable showing of mana here. Sure, I'm going to try this beatdown plan. We can always pivot into something else, but our opponent is more likely to have stuff to stop our combo than our beatdown. Starting with a Glimmer Post isn't necessarily where we want to be. Oh, Candelabra. We can also be the Candelabra deck. That's Mox Opal. We have to play out before the Vexing Bauble. I will play out the Vexing Bauble because we just want to make sure that we're not getting Force of Vigored. Okay. So next turn we can play the Ancient Tomb, play the Fleshraker, and then not really go anywhere. Or we can just make a construct. Turn on our Mox Opal. We could play the Candelabra, which is +1 mana. No, it's neutral mana the turn we play, isn't it? The old Candelabra of Tawnos mirror match. It's been a hot minute since I played in one of those. Elvish Spirit Guide exiled. Crop rotation. Planar Nexus. Tower. Boom. This is going to be a kick sowing Mycospawn maybe? Candelabra of Tawnos gets to untap their Saga. Yeah. So this should be a kicked Mycospawn, which Might just be game, to be honest. Oh, Modern Horizons, why do you keep making broken cards? Alright, goodbye, Urza Saga. I wonder what they get here. Probably another tower. If they just want lots of mana. That tower does a lot here with the Candelabra. An Eye of Ugin. Interesting. They're valuing the ability to tutor. The One Ring. Play out the Candelabra here. So we can pay one to this. And that lets us play the Fleshraker this turn. Okay. Still all to play for over here. If we lose, we get to be on the play, which is very potent with our deck. Alright, coming to play tap land. They can untap that. It does tap for 2, so it is worth untapping. Another kick Mycosynth spawn would be pretty brutal. Really, it's just Battle of the Modern Horizons cards over here, isn't it? Oh, they're tutoring. Same Mycosynth spawn. Okay, so we know what's waiting for us next turn. Bash for 3, sure. Have a little bit of mana to work with. Manifold Key. It's a weird one, isn't it? What are we doing here? We can shut off their Candelabra. That doesn't stop them from casting the big boy. We can play the One Ring. That's just a good card that can do some pretty gross things. So we'll play the spell that is free. It's not a bad place to start. 2, we can untap this. Oh, not that one. We want the One Ring here. Get some protections going. A Lotus Petal. Kind of an awkward one. It does still do what it says if you look at it sideways. We could sack this now that we have Metalcraft anyway. Expose us to Force of Vigor. We'd have to have Force of Vigor and a green card. Okay, so we found a land. That's not nothing. Now we can play this one out. So now we have 3 mana right now. So we could do a little mini Kozilek's command. I think that's where I want to be. We could untap this, then untap this. That gives us 3 mana. That's the same deal, isn't it? Let's attack for 2 and try and win the game next turn. So say Mycosynth Spawn can take out both of our lands. Echoing Deeps is going to be a Glimmer Post, so our opponent's going to gain a little chunk of life here. But if we get our engine rolling next turn, then it shouldn't matter. But if they can undo our attempts at having mana, that's going to be really solid. I wonder if they could have got something like an Emrakul last turn. What? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No. They were 1 mana shy of Emrakul. They might not have had that Glimmer Post. They might not have known they were drawing a land. Could have Ulamogged, taken out both of our lands, and gotten a bigger creature. I don't know. We'll see what they get here. So they might be able to multi-spell using the Candelabra here. So you can go and get another Cloud Post. Untap the 2 Cloud Posts. Have another spin. I imagine they're going after our mana here. Because what we are representing is pretty terrifying. Okay, so just got another land. Rather than a wasteland. So we're probably going to see the Candelabra untap a bunch of stuff. Maybe they're going to be Eye of Uganing this turn. Okay, so they're not casting a coloured spell because they didn't untap their Planar Nexus. This could just be an Ulamog anyway. A Candelabra. Okay, so maybe they have the Emrakul. Because they certainly have Emrakul mana. 3, 9. They can't tutor for and cast the Emrakul. But they might be able to do another Mycosynth spawn here. But we do get a turn. We've got 3, 6, 7, 8. Another Mycosynth spawn, sure. So we're going to get... Our opponent's going to have some more mana for next turn. So they should be able to just do Emrakul stuff next turn. Is there... Okay, so we're going to untap this One Ring. Maybe we could have done that last time, but we already found the land. So we didn't really need to play out more stuff. Especially since the only mana we had was temporary mana, like spawns and Lotus Petals. A Tabernacle. Let's see what you're putting down there, opponent. A Lotus Petal. Okay. So these are our triggers, aren't they? Resolve the One Ring trigger first. Then we can draw and see what we're drawing into. Make more decisions. Okay, let's float some mana. Pay for our Fleshraker. Alright, Lotus Petal doesn't hurt, does it? I think we want to untap this first. Looking at our hand here. Okay, we found an Ancient Tomb. We don't have an additional Fleshraker just yet, do we? Let's play this out. Play out this key. Let's untap the One Ring. Some more cards. This is our turn to win the game. A Grim Monolith, you say? I'll play out one of these. I'll deploy the Grim Monolith. I will play out a key here. We will untap the One Ring again. Draw some more cards. More keys equals more cards. So these are all free. We didn't find another Fleshraker, which is... Okay, we'll play out this Lotus Petal. Key. We will untap the One Ring. We'll draw a bunch more cards. Okay, we'll just keep making some guys. Let's keep making mana here, making guys. Alright, our opponent's scooping it up because we are at the point now where we are just throwing our whole deck at our opponent. You can certainly see how powerful our deck is. Let's go to round 4. Alright, our opener here does not really go anywhere. We only have one piece of disappearing mana, so we're going to hit the mulligan button. This is an Urza Saga hand that can maybe pop off and do some other stuff. I'm willing to give this a whirl. Every time we've been keeping these Urza Saga hands, they have panned out quite nicely for us. So there is that. Let's keep this. What are we bottoming here? Could be this tower. I think it's the tower. So in case of opposing Vexing Baubles, I'm going to play out this Lotus Petal. Our opponent is mulliganing quite low, which might prove pretty disastrous for us. There could be like a Echo Vion style deck. In which case, does that mean we're supposed to play out the Fleshraker? I don't think we can change our play around doing that though. Play out this Saga, and I will play out this Lotus Petal. Birds of Paradise. This is probably like some sort of Nadu deck. That would be my guess on that one. Kozilek's Command. So we could try and kill this because our opponent mulliganed and just mess with what our opponent's up to. Or we could stick to the plan and make some constructs. I do quite like making constructs here. So they can't play Nadu and a Nomads this turn. If they miss on land, then we're probably going after this Birds in the very near future. A Cradle. Okay. There is the Nadu. Need to have something to go with it though. Let's make a construct. This is also a deck that is quite likely to have access to Collect Truth in the main deck. I wanted to make another construct here. Do I just want more mana here? Quite like having the mana. We could just go and get the Pithing Needle and name Nomads and Core and just say let's not mess with that. But if we get the Mox Opal, then we play out the Workshop or the Saga. We have 1 mana, 2 mana. No, I think we get the Needle here. Right, so now we have 4/4s. We play this land out. Do I play this out to have 5/5s? Or do I save this for Fleshraker? I think I play out so I have 5/5s. We could Kozilek's Command for 1 just to kill the Birds of Paradise and hurt our opponent's mana that way. That does give them a flip off of the Nadu though. I'm quite happy with our position here. We're threatening a lot of damage next turn. Our Workshop will be tapping for 2 as well. A Dryad Arbor. So you could cord for the Nomads, but that's not going to be great here. They could cord for Sylvan Safekeeper or Bristly Bill. Our Nomads and Core is shut off by our Pithing Needle. If they have an answer for our Pithing Needle, we can Kozilek's Command in response. They could Natural Order here. Sacrificing the Birds. That's pretty solid actually. We probably have to Kozilek's Command something out of the way if they do that. Probably getting nugged for 3 because they're not holding that guy back to block. Alright. 1 card left in our opponent's hand. Let's see how much damage they want to take this turn. Urza's Workshop. So we can make this if we want to. What can we do with a Karn here? So we got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So we could Karn for Ensnaring Bridge if we want to. And then we're going to attack and see how much they want to chuck under the bus here. If they don't block, then we can play Fleshraker and maybe fire off a Kozilek's Command. They take 10 here. That's quite a lot. Okay, I think I'm just going to play this Glaring Fleshraker here. We can do a Kozilek's Command for 2. In a lot of worlds, this wins us the game. Right, so ping our opponent for 3. We don't need to find much in the way of colourless cards off the top. A Lotus Petal and a Manifold Key. So if we play out the Lotus Petal, yeah, that works. Actually, if we put this on the bottom and put this on the top, so ping them twice here. We play the Lotus Petal, we play the Karn, we win the game. That's the final ping. Our opponent did mulligan to 4. They had a pretty good hand though. This is like turn 3 doing the Nadu thing if we didn't interact with them. So I would like some dismembers, please. The particular build they're on is not one where the Vexing Bauble is going to counter much apart from Force of Vigor. So we still want to have a couple in, but we're not heavily on them. I think the Pithing Needle was good. Do we want to have another one in the main, or do we want to have one in the sideboard that we can fetch with the Karn? I think we're just going to have a couple of dismembers. Call it a day there. This is a turn 1 copy of the One Ring, so sign me up for doing the broken thing. We can Pithing Needle their Nomads if we want to as well. Nodal Hierarch, sure, you carry on. Monolith down. Let's key down. Untap our Monolith. This is where Force of Vigor could have blown us out. It did not, though. Let's get the One Ring. Let's draw some cards. I love drawing cards. Another Grim Monolith. Not the worst, not the best, just fine. It's a little colourless Cabal ritual for us. Sylvan Safekeeper, sure. Their creatures are going to be difficult to target. However, we're not big into targeting their creatures anyway. The hand we're on now is just going to be one that races them. The fact they didn't play Nadu this turn. Good news. They could actually just still play a Cradle, yeah, and then play the Nadu. Collector Oof. Oof is the sound you make when your opponent plays a Collector Oof. Not the best for us, obviously. They also have the protection for it, which is pretty strong here too. I'm going to play out this Urza Saga. I'll deploy a Lotus Petal first, and then a Vexing Bauble. I will not tap the Ancient Tomb now because I would like to preserve our life total a little bit. Our creatures are going to be large enough as it stands. If we need to kill their Collector Roof, we can play the Pithing Needle first, and then fire it off. But we might need to save the Pithing Needle for a Nomads or something. They could probably Nomads. They could probably cast a Nadu and Cord for a Nomads this turn. That'd be pretty strong. I think that would probably just win the game actually. Their broken Modern Horizons engine beating our broken non-Modern Horizons engine really, because the One Ring, it kind of feels like a Modern Horizons card because it was in that Lord of the Rings set. So we'll count it. We'll count our broken engine as a Modern Horizons one. It's unfortunately not up and running right now. Green Sun Zenith, X equals 3. I wonder what particular bird wizard this is going to be. It's a Nadu. It's a Cord for 1. So this is going to be the Nomads. And they're just going to draw their whole deck here. I guess we'll let them draw some cards. I just want to have a little bit more information. I don't want to sit through all of this. I don't think you lovely people out there do either. So we're just going to see what they find. I believe that their chance of stringing together a win next turn are about 100%. Because they're going to be drawing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 cards. And then on our turn, drawing another 10 cards. Alright, they're going to be drawing way more than 10 cards. Do I even want to watch through this? I want to see what they've sideboarded. So I kind of want to let them go through this a little bit. I'll wait till they've done on the creatures they have here. But it's a bit of a long... Obviously, we can't talk when we're playing a Mystic Forge deck. Which, again, is a lot of irritating clicks to go through. So they can play out a bunch more creatures here. Right, they're playing quite slowly here. So I'm just going to concede this one rather than making our opponent show us more cards. How is that realistically going to change our sideboarding? We're still just going to have our dismembers in, aren't we? Okay, let's click submit deck again. If we're on the play of that game, we get an additional turn with our One Ring, and maybe that's enough to win the game. So what does this hand do? Turn 1, the One Ring. That's how we keep drawing it up, isn't it? I think turn 1 One Ring is definitely better than turn 1 the Glaring Fleshraker. The One Ring. Let's draw a card now, in case it changes what we want to do. Okay, so next turn we are looking at playing out probably the Saga and the Fleshraker, unless we need to Kozilek's Command the 1-drop here. But we'll see what we draw off of the One Ring as well. Being on the play here is pretty good. Right, I'll happily remove that if we need to. Let's draw some more cards. What do we find? A Planar Nexus. Does that change what I want to do here? I don't think so. Like, how long do we think this game is going to go? Do I think I'm going to get paid out on an Urza Saga this game, or is that a bit of a pipe dream? Doesn't seem like we're going to get paid out on an Urza Saga here. So maybe we just play Workshop into Workshop, and with the idea that they're both going to be live soon. We want to kill this turn. I think that's a given. Doesn't matter which one. This is a really interesting decision. If we get the Saga now, it means we want to play the Workshops, I think, because then any artifact gives us the ability to pop off a bit more. Okay, we'll play out this Workshop. And then we will Kozilek's Command. Would I like to cantrip and kill their creature, or would I like another bit of mana? So how much mana do we have next turn? 1, 2, 3. So next time we can already Kozilek's Command into a guy. So I think we're just going to draw a card. And then we will exile target creature. That'll do. Still scry 1, draw a card. Little consider action for you. This is kind of annoying. I don't think we want that with the lands we have right now. If we'd have played out the Nexus, then sure. Right, we'll put this on the bottom. And we'll draw another Fleshraker. Okay, so next turn, we might just pop off. If we can find a key, we'll be in pretty good straits here, because we can get a whole bunch more mana. But we've restricted our opponent's ability to play this game. Are we going to see a Collector Roof? A Sylvan Safekeeper. So our Kozilek's Command, unlikely to be the most useful thing you've ever seen. But do we need that when we're drawing this many cards every turn? Let's have a look. The One Ring. We didn't find another artifact to pair, which is unusual. So what are we looking at doing here? Kind of wish we played the Saga last time. I think we are definitely playing out the Fleshraker. Let's get our little buddy down. We're bound to find another artifact. Ooh, consigned to memory, sure. I will play out this workshop. So we could hit this Sylvan Safekeeper now, but 4 life is quite a big hit for us. It does stop everyone just having Nadu and immediately spamming some stuff. We'll need to discard a card. Let's discard one of these Planar Nexus. It's not really a card you ever want to have multiples of. It's just a one of that's nice. Well, you want to have one of them at all times, but you never really want to have more of them because it's an enabler. Birds of Paradise. We're going to crash in for 1 here. Put us to 10. One Ring is going to put us to 7. Ancient Tomb can put us to 5. And it's getting a little bit dicey. The One Ring. Let's tap this. Okay, well we have a lot of mana now. So we played this little Lotus Petal. And now all of a sudden our workshops are tapping for 3. So we can play out this Fleshraker. Reset our One Ring. We can play a Karn. They've got consigned to memory. So we have got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. We could re-ring. We could Karn. Don't hate the Karn here. What do we get with our Karn? Liquimetal Coating. Interesting. I think I would like to go again with the One Ring here. So let's play the One Ring out. I think I want to keep the one with loads of counters on. We don't get a card immediately if we do that. How much do I need a card immediately? And I will keep this one. Let's get this card immediately. A Voltaic Key, you say? So this Ancient Tomb doesn't hurt us anymore either, so we can go well with that one. Let's get the key down. Tap the One Ring here. Draw some more cards. Another key, another monolith. That's monolith. That's key. Kind of just spamming our hand as we've been doing in a lot in these games. Do we want to draw some more cards now? I think so. In 3 next turns, fine. We're not going to take any in the interim. It's making us want to keep playing more cards though, isn't it? So let's play out this key. Let's untap this Grim Monolith, I think, this time. Play this one out. 9 mana here. Exile target creature, or do you just want to draw some cards and make spawns? If we make them sacrifice land, that's really annoying for them. So exile a creature, and I would like to make some spawns here. Oh, we can't target ourselves, can we? I keep forgetting about that with the Kozilek's command. So we can kill a creature and exile cards from graveyard. That doesn't feel great. We could play a Karn. That seems like a reasonable use of our time and energy. In comes the Karn. Do we have anything on our sideboard that we really, really want right now? Oh, we can effectively get 2 cards from this one. We could just take the Paradox Engine and win the game next turn. We haven't done the Paradox Engine yet, so let's do that. Let's go and get the, where is it? Paradox Engine. And I think we've done more than enough there. So we take 3 next turn, and then we get to draw our whole deck, and then our opponent dies. So we don't need a second one of these. Probably not going to need this Dismember. How much Nadu stuff can they do? They can't Nadu and kill us because of the One Ring protection. They can probably Nadu and hold up some consigned to memory type shields, but they don't have Force of Will in this build. It's more like a sort of classic elf build. So they're not going to have access to much in the way of stopping us. I guess they could put a Collector Roof in play. Yeah, but we have the Kozilek's command, which easily picks this up. I guess we actually have to get the Pithing Needle here first. So this is coming out the Karn. Sure. The One Ring hurts us here. I could just draw a Fleshraker and win the game now anyway. Haven't done the math, but I'm sure that does enough work. They do have 1 blue up, which is something we need to be aware of. We can't cast this Dismember right now. Is that true? We can cast this Dismember using the Planar Nexus. I think that's reasonable here, isn't it? So we play this Planar Nexus out first. Makes our Urza Workshop tap for more. We minus this. We go and get a Pithing Needle. Start this whole train going. Is that better than Portable Hole? Go for this Pithing Needle. So we name it Sylvan Safekeeper. That way we can protect. We can kill the Collector Roof. Now giving it some protection. If we Kozilek's command this, they're probably going to sack everything they have and just let us die to the One Ring here. Yeah, maybe we're not supposed to have done this line. Right, we still have a lot of mana here. I don't think we can tap the Nexus if we're trying to kill the Collector Roof. We want to just play this we also want to Kozilek's command. So if we go, we would like to make some tokens and scry a bunch. Target ourselves. So we'll leave 4 mana in the pool for this one. Bottom, these lands that we don't want. The other Kozilek's command is pretty good. The other Karn is pretty good too. So then we cast this One Ring. Our opponent does have blue mana up. They got it. They got it. Okay, they didn't have it. Okay, so now this doesn't hurt us. So we can pay 2 life to dismember this on our opponent's turn. And then kind of next turn should be able to win. We've got One Ring protection. They can't do Nadu stuff with a Safekeeper either. I think we're going to squeeze through on this one. Noble Hierarch. Do not care about that one. No point attacking because we have the One Ring protection. So this doesn't hurt us, right? Let's make a black mana. Do we need to dismember this? Is going to 2 life risky? I don't think it is. Don't think I'm going to draw with the One Ring now. That's cowardice. But we got a lot of stuff in play right now. We could play out this Urza land. Seems reasonable. We could play out the Paradox Engine. Just go wild here. We have so much mana though. A Paradox Engine. Are we in with this? We are in with this. Okay, so we could just shut down our opponent's ability to play this game right now. Cast a Karn. Minus the Karn. We'll go and get ourselves the Lattice. And then we float some mana from these things. Paradox Engine is not the nicest to click through, truth be told. Let's cast a Lattice. This will untap all of our permanents. Our opponent doesn't get to play the game anymore, and we get the match. So that's probably quite a safe line. We could have been tapping the One Ring and drawing our whole deck as well. We managed to finagle ourselves into a position where we pretty much couldn't lose there. All right, we are 4 rounds in. We are 4 wins in. So this is the trophy match with a deck that just won Eternal Weekend and is pretty bananas. Let's see if we can take home the trophy. All right, trophy time. What does our hand do? Not that much. Let's mulligan. The turn 1 ring is very good. I think I'm going to throw back the Karn here. This could be a mistake. Our hand is a little bit fragile, but powerful. All right, we're probably going to have to force of will check our opponent here. I'd love to draw just a regular land. Good old-fashioned Delver of Secrets. Love it. It's been a hot minute. Do enjoy Delver of Secrets. All right. This does feel a bit force of will checky here. We could just play a Vexing Bauble. We need to play out all of our Lotus Petals before we do that, of course. Let me just play out a Vexing Bauble here. And then if we draw any land, we can just Grim Monolith into One Ring next turn. If our opponent's playing black, do we want to play around discard? Right, so they're dazing that. I'm going to say, I don't know if we can afford to pay for this. Feels a lot. Right, I'm going to play this out of our hands so it can't be discarded if they've got Thoughtseizers. Don't feel great about this. Okay, and we'll pass. But any land gives us One Ring. We don't know if they have more things to counter our spells with. So if I was our opponent, spending just a daze on a Vexing Bauble is fine. Spending a Force of Will generally is something I don't do on Vexing Baubles. Because, unless you have other counter spells in hand that you need to leverage. Because generally speaking, the other card you would pitch is going to be better than just getting rid of this blank card that doesn't do anything at that moment in time. Land. Not a land. Alright. We are getting a little bit dumpstered. Undercity Sewers. Now Spellbomb, that doesn't impact us. Just a cantrip for our opponent. The life that we give up to the Delver now is life we don't get to give up to the ring later either. Urza's Workshop. Well, here goes the thing that we have. If it sticks, we're good. If it doesn't, then we're in trouble. They had a Force of Will as well. Sure. We can still draw a key. Takes a couple of turns to get going, but is enough to get us where we need to be. Should I just go for a cantrip with the now Spellbomb? No. Oh, Merc's hiding. That makes more sense. They just need to put a card in the graveyard. That's why they didn't pitch anything. Alright, so we're dead in a couple of turns here. Take one draw step. So we have the Lotus Petal. What can we draw? If we draw a key next turn, we can play the One Ring and maybe try and get something going. Yeah, our keep was a touch sketchy. But if our opponent's not playing blue, that keep is pretty solid. And if we drew a land on the first turn or the second turn, it's also pretty decent as well. But we did not get there. And it happens sometimes. So we got a whack of 9 damage coming in. So we're on 2 life. The One Ring is not going to be a great stabilizing piece. And there's his tower. That does not do it here. Okay, yeah, we got clowned on pretty hard there. Not surprised though. I believe our opponent has null rods in their sideboard. I think that means I want some amount of Boseijus here. What are we getting rid of? I think we get rid of a Candelabra. And it's probably workshops they're harder to leverage and make work. We want to have the Planar Nexus in for the mana to use our Boseiju. I think that's about where we're at here. We could bring in another Pithing Needle for Wasteland. Is that better than having a key? Maybe. Yeah, I can believe that. Let's try that one out. Okay. We got some game here. We've got multiple Haymakers we can try and drop. And we can protect our lands with this Pithing Needle. I think I'd rather lose the Urza's Tower here. But this also gives us the option of possibly having 4 mana on turn 2. I don't think our opponent's going to have the Vexing Baubles in, so I'm going to keep this Lotus Petal in hand in case we want to have like Fleshraker into Lotus Petal. It does play into Daze, but that is an option that we're allowed to do. Just a Surveil land. A little slow start for our opponent there. Burning off a Murktide. Doesn't really tell us anything about our hand because that's not a card you want at this stage of the game anyway. Am I sending it here? I think so. They have to have it here, and if they don't, we get to just go wild. And we've got another one. Do we pass a Force of Will check? No, it's a Daze check. But like I said, any mana lets us send it again next turn. And we can just keep doing that because we've also got the Karn. Because we have the One Ring, we could use one as a bait spell. Our opponent did have an Underground Sea to follow up. So Consign to Memory looks like quite an obvious play from our opponent here. Right, this just accessed a whole bunch of mana for us. We play the Karn. I'd rather that get consigned than the One Ring. A Brainstorm. Okay, it's not getting consigned. Might be getting Force of Willed. So we could go and get a Liquimetal Coating here. So we have the mana to play it right now. And that can just shut our opponent's mana production down for another turn and stop the frog coming down either way. That's what we're worried about. I don't hate that as a strategy. We could get the Candelabra of Tawnos. If we get the Candelabra here, play it. We don't get to untap enough stuff with it right now, though, do we? But it is worth 1, 2, 3 extra mana. Is mana really what we're looking for now? Then we get the Coating. Just shut down our opponent's mana for a turn. Alright, if they daze it, then that's a daze they don't have for our other spells. It also means they can't drop anything meaningful like a Null Rod this turn, which is what we're trying to dodge. Because their 2-drops are where things can spiral out for us. Right, they're showing us some different lands. We know they've got 2 lands. Actually, no, they Brainstorm, so they might have put the Undercity Sewers back already. How many more counter spells do I think our opponent has access to? Good question. Let's play the One Ring. They have to have a Force of Will here. Alright, we've got another Brainstorm. So playing the One Ring around Daze is much better than playing Lattice into Daze, in my opinion. We have already seen 2 Dazes, though. Alright, this resolves. That should be not necessarily game, but it's going to be some way towards game, I would. So this doesn't hurt us anymore. Let's get our Manifold Key going. Untap this One Ring. Just draw some more cards. Another. We have on our sideboard that we might be interested in. We can go and get the Lattice next turn. We have a better idea if that's going to work or not. We just play out another key for now, just so we've got that in the bank. What I don't want to do here is go and get Lattice, then our opponent just untaps and plays the Null Rod, because we have the answer to the Null Rod. We can go and get the Portable Hole. We've got the Planar Nexus. Just nothing from our opponent there. That doesn't seem good for them. Sure, as a Saga learns to do some more stuff. Let's draw some cards. Love drawing the cards. Is this an Orcish Bowmasters? Yeah, that is a little bit problematic. So they go after the Karn here. Kozilek's Command. Right, so we play out a Vexing Bauble here. Then we will exile a creature. I think I want more mana here. We drew this card after. That was one of the cards we drew. Alright, our opponent just conceded the game because we untapped the ring. So we're going to draw 4, 5, 6 cards. And then that's probably going to be enough to do some cool stuff with. I like how we sideboarded. I think we're just going to go right back in again, I guess. Turn 1 Karn is something. It's a bit of a Force of Will check hand, but we do have a Kozilek's Command, which can maybe follow up and do some stuff. So our opponent ideally wants to have a turn 1 threat. They didn't have a turn 1 threat, so it's probably a turn 1... Oh, the Vexing Bauble is so good here. Around a Daze as well. Alright, let's get this down. I was going to say, they might have a Consign to Memory. Being a combo deck with a card like Vexing Bauble in does feel a little bit on the unreasonable side. I think Vexing Bauble as a card to stop combo decks is fine, but when you are a combo deck that's using it to protect it, it just feels a little bit too good. Consign to Memory. Do you have a Daze for our Manifold Key? Is that worth dazing to you? They said no. Alright, so we got one of their Consign to Memories out. So the Vexing Bauble sort of did its job. It was a Lightning Rod. Ideally you want it in play, but took up a spell from our opponent. Psychic Frog. Sure, we can kill this if we want to, but that's going to be a reasonable amount of resources for us. So we deploy the Planar Nexus. We deploy the Grim Monolith. So whatever we're playing here goes into days. Alright, they're just force of willing that instead. I think that's a good choice. I'm going to play a Pithing Needle here. If we can stop this from flying, we can probably prevent it doing much with the Kozilek command here. Alright, they're just dazing this. Sure. I might have actually named the Wasteland here. So our opponent had Consign, Force of Will, and Daze, and Psychic Frog. So they've kind of had... The only thing that they would want from this point would be a Null Rod. And they are drawing extra cards, so it's possible. I think our next turn has to be answering the Psychic Frog. Ponder. If they find another Daze, or have the ability to Force here, then it's going to be lights out. We've only got a few weeks left of this Psychic Frog. Okay, so that Wasteland is enormous here. That takes us off of Kozilek's command. Unless we draw Urza's Tower right now. Okay. We've drawn something that allows us to do the thing we want to do. Grim Monolith. Untap Grim Monolith. We can do this around a Daze. I would like to scry here, I think. I will leave one up just so we can play around the Daze. It's so important this Psychic Frog leaves play right now. The One Ring times 2. Okay, we'll put one on the bottom and one on the top. Okay. Our spot has become better. Our opponent spent a lot of resources, and if we can then just play the One Ring and cash in, that'll be alright. Delver of Secrets. And a Wasteland. Wasteland is good here. Our opponent's had some pretty top-notch draws here. Which sort of shows the level of draws you need to keep up with this deck. So the One Ring is going to have to wait for a turn, which means our opponent has a chance of drawing into some permission. We at least get to see if they draw into permission this turn to flip the Delver. No flip. If that's another Wasteland, I'm not going to be very happy. We're going to take one. That's fine. We're going to untap the Monolith. Okay, not a Wasteland. Is it a Frog? It is a Frog. Okay, so the One Ring can stop this from drawing a card. We know our One Ring resolves because they got no cards in hand. Glaring Fleshraker. That's going to be nice later on. So we can play this, untap this. That doesn't work. We just need to get the One Ring going here. Draw any fast mana right here. Okay. I don't want to get Wastelanded. I think I'm going to play this out and I'm going to name Wasteland. So we're safe from damage for a turn. We could have named Frogs so they can never fly over. That's another option. Let's see what our opponent draws with this Delver. No flip. So you can draw a Wasteland now, and I love that. Oh, Jesus. Alright. Yeah, our opponent's had pretty much a perfect draw here. But these cards are in their deck for a reason, right? You know, they've pondered into this, they've drawn extra cards with the Psychic Frog. But it's more a case of showcasing what you need to do to beat this Forge deck rather than being salty about them actually beating us. Because I think our Forge deck is a bit too good for Legacy right now, if I'm being honest. I think it's one of the many decks that needs taken down a peg. I think Psychic Frog obviously needs to go as well. So we have the Karn, which is the thing that enables us to get Portable Hole. We did board in the Boseijus in this matchup. I'm pretty sure we did. Yes, we boarded in the Boseijus. But we don't have the mana to do that. Okay, Mozart region. We are very close to being annihilated. Let's see what the final draw is. There's 7, 8, 9, 10. So they have exactly lethal next turn. GG's opponent. The trophy eludes us, but only just. And you saw how right it had to go for our opponent to be able to beat us there, and how wrong it had to go for us in that game where we sort of kept a hand that wasn't great into a multiple permission in game 1 as well. So yeah, I think we showcased Kelvin's deck here very nicely and why it's pretty busted. Alright, let's talk about the list. So this is the best combo deck in Legacy. I've been saying that for about a month now, and like the best sort of out-and-out combo deck. I think Cephalid Breakfast is really, really good, but that has more levers to pull. This is a dedicated combo deck that doesn't really do anything else. And, you know, this is... I guess Cephalid Breakfast can kill on turn 2 as well. But this is kind of like the out-and-out combo deck that I think is the best in the format right now. And I think we showcased exactly why. It has some incredibly broken things you can do with it. Everyone is having to play a whole bunch of null rods just to try and keep this honest, and we did manage to beat Collector Roof as well, so it's not entirely impossible to beat that. I think there's a bunch of stuff that makes this deck a little unreasonable. I think the Vexing Bauble is just such a strong piece of protection. Like in the past, we had to reach for defense grids. 2 mana is a lot more than 1. And you can just cycle this in bad matchups as well, so you can play it main deck and just have this free roll is really quite strong. Kozilek's command, giving a colorless deck access to removal, is kind of wild, and like it's a draw spell and removal spell. It kind of does it all, and I think it's a bit much color pie wise in terms of what colorless should be, because it used to be that if you played a colorless deck, you got all of the fast mana here, but the downside was your interaction had to be like worse. So you're playing like Dismembers as your removal spell or whatever, and you know, maybe Chalice is how you're trying to interact with your opponent. You didn't necessarily have just, oh, I get to kill creatures now. So that's kind of a bit wild. But yeah, the One Ring, this card is obviously bananas. It's probably getting banned in Modern. I don't really play Modern, but every time I look at Modern, every single deck that everyone's playing runs 4 copies of the One Ring. So I'm pretty sure this is getting banned in Modern, and I think it is right at the top of the power level for Legacy too. It is something to keep an eye on. But like I said, this deck has several levers that are pulling, like Glaring Fleshraker as well. It's pretty gross. So there's several levers this deck is pulling of playing the busted stuff, and that's always a good place to be, especially when you're at big tournaments. And it certainly did Kelvin well. So once again, congratulations to him for winning the North American Eternal Championship in Legacy. Deck is very powerful. Deck is pretty sweet. I hope parts of it get banned. It's a weird way to close a video, but I think Legacy probably needs a pretty sizable ban hammer to come down in 3 weeks time. I think the ban week. Yeah, 3 weeks time from when I'm recording this. So keep your eyes peeled and keep playing the busted stuff while it's available, I guess. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.